And now it's Boomer Life. Lifestyle ideas designed to make your life more engaging, meaningful, and complete. Celebrating the baby boomer generation, this is Boomer Life with Sterling Fox.
Well, hello and welcome to Boomer Life here on AM 650. You can call this episode of the program Diamonds 101. We are joined in studio by Stephen Benolio, who is a principal with both Canadian Estate Diamonds and Canadian Noble House Diamonds. Good to see you again, Stephen. Welcome back.
Thank you, Sterling. It's fun to be here.
Tell us about the two businesses, because there's Canadian Estate Diamonds and Canadian Noble House Diamonds. So what does Canadian Estate Diamonds do? What's the difference between the two?
Right. Well, they're both based around the fact that we run a small factory downtown Vancouver and have the ability in two different ways to address today's diamond. We, through Estate Diamonds, buy aftermarket diamonds through the proceeds of inheritance, divorce, and we can recut them. So diamonds of the past were cut in a different way than they are today, so we can fashion them into a modern ideal cut, get them recertified and take them back to market. And as we've discussed earlier, there are perhaps more diamonds out of the ground than are left to be mined. And some of the greatest diamonds the world will ever know are sitting in safety deposit boxes to be inherited over the next 15 years by the baby boom generation.
So, Stephen, just hold it there, because the myth is, of course, there's a perpetual supply of diamonds. They'll never run out. There's been price fixing since the get-go. It's a huge. It's almost like there's a conspiracy theorist love diamonds. Let's put it that way.
Right.
And you know where I'm going with this, don't you?
Sure, and perhaps that was once upon a time the case. The diamond industry was controlled by a monopoly. De Beers had perhaps 70%, 80% of the world diamond market at one point.
Right.
And that's diminished over time. The Canadian mines are, well, two of them are owned by De Beers, but three are not. And the Russians control a vast amount of diamond mines. There are independent diamond mines in Australia and Africa. And indeed, the 15 biggest diamond mines in history are in their twilight years.
Interesting.
Yeah, you know what? There's a great mine in Tanzania that was discovered by a Canadian, Dr. Williamson, in the 30s, and it's one of these Canadian stories that nobody, for the most part, has ever heard about, and it would be a great movie. He found a mine. He developed it himself in a remote part of the world back in the Depression. He kept it away from De Beers for the rest of his life, and it produced beautiful big diamonds, a 50-carat pink that went to Princess Elizabeth.
Oh, my.
A 300-carat white diamond, and the stories that are around that, the Williamson mine and the crazy Canucks driving drunk through the jungle in the 30s in their old trucks. It would be a good movie. Somebody somehow should address that one day.
Well, I'm thinking, I'm just listening to the story, and already it sounds like it has the makings of a pretty good movie.
Right.
Where was this fellow from? What part of Canada? Do
I'm
you
sorry,
recall?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I'll find out for you for next time.
Oh, okay, but so a Canadian, a real entrepreneur, a real Wild West kind of guy.
Right, and the Williamson mine is still running and has a 50-year span left. But as I was saying, the 15 biggest and greatest diamond mines of history are in their twilight years. And there is a shortage coming up, not in all diamonds, but in the big and the beautiful. And we have 300 million new middle class in China,
Yes.
and the Chinese very much like diamonds, and they like diamonds of quality. So shortages are predicted within 2 years.
Interesting.
And in fact, some diamonds are in speculative mode, and for the most part, those are the bigger ones, the 2 to 3 carat. But De Beers has come out and said that the demand is exceeded, or rather supply is exceeded by demand, and major shortages are coming about over the next 5 years.
And that's a pretty dramatic turnaround, because again, maybe it's conspiracy theory hogwash, or maybe it's the truth. You can certainly straighten this one out for us. There used to be, the feeling was that De Beers, of course, had limitless supplies of diamonds, but only released certain amounts of it on an annual basis in order to maintain artificially high prices. Now, this goes back decades. Did that practice ever happen, or is that a figment of our imagination?
No, it absolutely did.
Interesting.
And
okay.
In some ways, it was good for the trade, because they weren't They weren't addressing prices that were up and down every year. On the other hand, those stockpiles are gone. They are absolutely gone. They still hold back one certain segment of diamond called a Type 2A diamond because it can be treated. And they don't want the public to get suspicious of what they're buying in terms of is it natural or not.
Okay.
But otherwise, their stockpiles are gone. And I was once of that cynical mind too, until I mined diamonds. And when you see the effort and the work and the amount of gravel or ground that needs to be moved to get one tiny little pebble the size of a pea, it's not just a conspiracy. It's a diminishing asset for the finest gemstone on earth. And a diamond is, of all the gemstones, it has qualities that it holds alone. And it deserves to be where it is. It lasts. I've seen diamonds 100 years old that are as beautiful as the day they were cut.
Interesting.
There's no other gemstone that can be worn and as durable as that. And there's no others that play with light the way that a diamond can in terms of scintillation, dispersion, and brilliance. So it does deserve its place in the world of beauty and gemstones. That it was once controlled by a monopoly is true. They no longer control the majority of the business.
Okay.
They're now going from the mine to the finger, and that's their place in the market.
And where did you mine diamonds, Stephen?
In West Africa.
Oh, really?
After the war and the problems ended in Sierra Leone, the world, Hollywood really left them with a disservice because Sierra Leone has some of the most beautiful diamonds on earth.
Now, isn't that where they have what used to be called blood diamonds?
That's right, where the movie was made.
Okay.
But when Charles Taylor went to The Hague and underwent trial for crimes against humanity, the world largely left the story behind. And the best resource the people of Sierra Leone have are their diamonds. And there, anybody can go and mine diamonds. It just like anybody can go and get placer gold here.
Sure.
And 2 of the 10 best diamonds ever found were found right where that movie was filmed. That they were alluvial diamonds, so that they were washed by a river. And it's like winning the lottery. You can find $100 million diamond in a riverbed there.
Unbelievable.
So it was interesting, and it was, when you're there, you make a difference because if you have any heart or compassion in you at all, anybody can save lives, can make. So we built a hospital there. It was a part of what we put back into working with the people. We employed the people who were of the chiefdom of the area. And for me, it was the first place I'd really ever had a chance in my life to make that kind of difference and find out how rewarding it is to be able to do that.
So diamonds actually did a tremendous service to the people who mined them in this particular location.
That's right.
Stephen, just to wrap up this notion of blood diamonds, it is now a thing of the past. And if people are out in the marketplace and perhaps shopping and somebody says, well, that's a blood diamond.
Right.
Well, how should you react in the summer of 2014 to that statement?
Largely, it is a thing of the past. There is a field it's called the Morange Field in Zimbabwe where Robert Mugabe still rules.
Right, yeah.
And that is a terrible story. But those diamonds are easily recognizable and of a low quality. They're not likely ever to hit the Canadian market.
Okay.
So I would say the story is, for the most part, put to bed.
Now, in terms of supply, you've talked about a diminishing supply, and De Beers even predicting shortages within the next few years,
right,
which suggests a couple of things. One, that if you've got some diamonds right now, they're going to be worth more as the clock continues to tick. And B, it causes great inquisitiveness on my part in terms of Canada. You've talked about De Beers owning 2 mines in Canada, but there are other diamond mines in our country that are independently owned. What's the status of Canadian diamonds and our supply relative to the rest of the world, Stephen?
Right. Well, the first diamond mines discovered, the Rio Tinto mine and the Ekati mines, are already in their twilight years.
Interesting. How long has that been then?
10, 15 years.
So they weren't huge to begin with in terms of supply.
No, if you think of a diamond going into the ground as a carrot shape, the big African mines often had a surface area of a few kilometers, whereas the ones in the north were a few hectares. So they played very well when they went. The 143A pipe of the Diavik mine was 3 carats of gem quality per ton, which made it the richest operating mine on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And Caddy had some beautiful diamonds, and again, very high quality. They lost one of the best diamonds they ever had in a robbery. It was I believe it was a 20 carat fancy yellow that was lost in the Krink robbery in Antwerp. It was the biggest diamond heist in history. And it was all the brokers of Antwerp would put their diamonds into safety deposit boxes in one room over the weekend, and it was an inside robbery, and they arrived to open the vault on Monday morning with diamonds and papers all over the floor.
Oh man, right out of a Hollywood movie then, huh?
Yeah.
On the Monday morning.
That's right. So the company working on polishing that diamond for a Caddy lost that diamond.
Now, with Canadian estate diamonds and an oncoming shortage of supply planet-wide, this is an opportunity. Canadian estate diamonds is about, as you've just said, you buy diamonds from people who have inherited them or who have gone through a divorce and no longer want that evidence in their lives.
That's right.
And various other ways that people come to you with diamonds. Once they come to Canadian Noble House Diamonds downtown on Granville Street, describe the process. What happens?
Well, it's usually a pretty quick process. I lay out the options. If it's a diamond of another time, for instance from the 20s or 30s, it should probably be recut. That the reason is that modern ideal brilliant has developed over the last 100 years to its perfect model today. And most people who have one for sale will probably have to discount it to a jeweler because the jeweler might offer low, not knowing exactly how it will recut.
Okay.
Because we have a factory and we can analyze it very quickly, we can tell them what it will be when it's recut. And I'm 33 years a gemologist, so I can right away tell them, we often have to take it out of its setting, but
Sure.
I can tell them, here's the color, here's the clarity, here's what I would buy it for. Alternatively, if you want to work with us, we can take your diamond, recut it, get it certified, and it takes all the gray area out.
Okay.
So that would be the slower option, but you would probably ultimately realize more.
Is there any, I guess the first question that comes to my mind, if you've got an older diamond and you've decided, well, let's take it to that nice man on the radio and see what it's worth and see what he says. He says we should think about maybe recutting. Well, isn't that going to cause the diamond to be smaller and therefore worth less? You're reducing the mass of the stone?
Yes, it will be smaller, but it will also be more beautiful.
Ah.
And it will be of this time and what the discerning buyer will buy. If somebody wants to buy a deflawless diamond today and they are being careful about what they're doing, they will want a GIA or an AGS lab certificate that says it's a perfectly cut diamond. And if it doesn't say that, then it has to sell for a lower price.
I see.
So you might have a smaller diamond, but the price per carat goes up.
Because of the quality.
That's right.
And
the quality of the cut.
And now the modern twist, the appeal factor is way up there now.
Exactly. The way that diamonds were once cut in a round brilliant, it would often leave the culet, which is the bottom point, open. So
and you see that in settings. You can see the stone held at its widest point by a number of little hands or finger type things, and you can actually see space. In the bottom of the setting, you can see the point of the diamond, and there's air because the setting is being held at the top.
And light was going right through there.
Right.
At a cost to beauty.
And that's the point of the design, right? To allow that air and light to do its work.
Right.
That's the joy of owning a well-cut diamond.
Exactly.
Our guest on this episode of Boomer Life is Stephen Benolio, who is with Canadian Estate Diamonds. That's what we've been talking about. And when we come back after the break, we're going to talk about Canadian Noble House Diamonds. And that's a whole other ball game. And it's the one actually closer to Stephen's heart. And we'll find out why after we take this quick timeout. Stay with us.
Canada's only weekly radio show dedicated to the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on AM 650.